Hey guys, welcome to another episode of On the Range podcast, brought to you by War HOGG Tactical and Kelly Defense. As always, I'm joined by my co-host and friend, Rick Hogg. How's it going, Rick?
It's going great, Mark. How you doing, buddy?
Good, buddy. On this little show, we like to talk about all things War HOGG Tactical, Kelly Defense, and everything America. So,
bam.
Make sure you check us out on YouTube at War HOGG Tactical and Kelly Defense. Same handle on IG, War HOGG Tactical and Kelly Defense. Also, don't forget to check out the websites for both War HOGG Tactical, which is warhog.com, and kellydefense.com. Now, today's a special day, Rick. Taking this little show we call ours to the next level. Why don't you bring us in and let us know what's going on today?
Yeah, buddy. So here we are, episode 8. We told the listeners, viewers out there that we were ready to launch having guests.
Yeah, man.
We would reach out to all of our different people we knew out there, and sure enough, we've got somebody from that's Canadian born. That's technically not really in the firearms community. So for episode 8, we've got Marcus Torgerson, who's going to be our guest with us today. So super looking forward to it.
Yeah, he's a guy that I had the pleasure of meeting last year. Was introduced by you, I think, on IG and some of the social media, and had a chance to meet him back at SHOT Show. Great guy. It's going to be a lot of good content. We've talked about it on our show several times where, you have to be able to use your hands and mindset, and I can't wait to hear what he's got to say.
We told you we would bring you a guest, and sure enough, we got Marcus Torgerson here. Super excited to have him. Marcus, how you doing, buddy?
I am fantastic, guys. It's great to see you both.
All right, and I also have my co-host, Mark Kelly. Mark, how you doing, pal?
Doing well, man. Really excited about today's show. We've been planning this for a little bit. Marcus was nice enough to give us some of his time. We really appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for doing this.
I'm thanking you guys. You know how excited I am for this.
Good.
All right. So I'm going to do just a little bit of just intro. So real quick for the listeners, viewers, we told you guys we'd bring you a guest. Marcus is not only let's just say from the non-firearm side, he is a Krav Maga master. He is also Canadian by birth. So we're totally hitting all the realms we told you guys you would. But here's the thing. I want people to know one thing about Marcus, right? So I met Marcus probably, I think it was last year, buddy, if I remember right.
Correct.
We said we met in person. So we had done some stuff on social. And to Marcus's just to, kind of explain what type of person Marcus is. So Marcus drove, I think it was about 4 hours from Fort Worth down to Houston to a 511, always be ready deal that I was doing just to hear me speak. And then afterwards, we had dinner. So that was kind of my intro to Marcus. Super impressed with that, pal. And just been, going on ever since. So super excited to have my friend Marcus Torgerson, episode 8 on the Range podcast. So really, Marcus, just want to get, for the listeners out there, just a quick intro on you and just what you want to kind of share and get us started.
Well, the easy intro to me is that I'm a 50-year-old man who's been doing martial arts for literally 40 years. And my whole essence of being is making people be a nightmare for bad guys. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah, brother. Here's one thing I really want to kind of tap into this a little bit, because I think you said it on Josh's podcast, My Backstory. You talked about how you use, and help me with the verbiage here, you have experience with violence. And we were talking about dealing with, when you're teaching your Krav Maga, how you bring that, and we'll take the word violence out and just call it experience. But how you bring that experience to your students to kind of teach them. And I thought that was a really, important factor that you plugged in.
Well, and to put it in, because if many of your listeners are firearm participants, to put things into perspective, you can do all the dry firing that you want, which is important. But until you have live fire and get that recoil and have the smell of the gunpowder and the bang and all your sensories are overloaded with that moment, until you've experienced that, you can't actually respect or understand what it's like to engage with a firearm. Now, when it comes to violence, I've participated in violence. I've had violence come towards me in my life. So when I am teaching, I'm not speaking from a hypothetical. I know what it's like to be hit, and I know what it's like to hit in violence. Now, there's a difference. Hitting in self-defense is one thing, but hitting with bad intentions because you're not being such a nice person is a completely different mindset or way of thinking. And you have to appreciate how the enemy is going to hit you. Otherwise, you're taking it for granted, and you're going to think that you're going to do fine when all of a sudden everything goes sideways, and you're going to have to come up with some type of intestinal fortitude to survive. Mm-hmm. So I'm a big proponent of being as close to reality as possible while still maintaining a huge amount of safety.
So I think in this climate, I'm sure that the request for your assistance, your training, your involvement, your consulting has to have gone up some, I would think. Or do you see more folks leaning towards the firearm side? Because Rick and I talk about it all the time, that it's a great idea to be able to shoot, handle a gun, and be able to carry, but it's also important to make sure that you can use your hands to get that separation.
Well, first, I'm hoping, let's just say I'm hoping that there will be more people who will see the benefit for my services. On a capitalistic sort of view, yes, I would love that. But from a practical standpoint, I and Rick and you both know better than anybody that if I can't engage something like distance, how am I supposed to get that tool?
Right, right.
And then also, let's say, and I'm saying this only because I had a session earlier today with, now you've pulled your tool and you're ready to use it. And let's say your background is for shit and you cannot use it. And you have to utilize what was hot as a cold weapon. Can you utilize that tool as a cold weapon? Can you sit there and use something else as a secondary until the background is clear, or you literally have no choice? And because obviously as a Canadian, firearms is not quite, I wasn't raised with them as is your culture. And I'm happy for that because it keeps me focused on certain realities. At a certain distance, that's great. Pull any tool you want. But we're really talking about when you're kind of sleeping a little bit and bad things have happened and all of a sudden it's go time. You may not even feel comfortable pulling. You may not feel comfortable actually engaging the target. Now it's a real person. No more paper targets, folks. This is a living, breathing person that once you depress that trigger, your life changes forever. Yeah. You may have second thoughts and say, well, wait a minute, what else can I do? Well, learn other tools. It's ridiculous to sit there and think that one thing is going to be the answer for everything. It's never been that way in the history of mankind. Yeah. It's not going to start doing it now.
And we talk mindset all the time. That's a big part of our show, big part of our classes is mindset as well. Wouldn't you agree, Rick?
Yeah, I mean, Marcus, you hit the nail on the head. So this is just one thing for me. Before, when I was teaching the North Carolina concealed carry, I would ask people prior to teaching them anything, are you willing to take another human being's life? And here's the deal. If they answered no, cool, no problem. Then you don't need to be carrying a firearm. Yeah. Because chances are, and you never know when a deadly force encounter is going to happen and you're going to need to use that firearm. The last thing you want to do is, just like you said, you pull it out and now all of a sudden doubt's running through your head. Yeah. It's got to be second nature. Your brain has to compute there is something that's going to either kill me, my family member, whatever the case may be, and I need to stop that threat immediately. And if you don't have that mindset, you're done, because what's going to wind up happening, you're going to get your gun taken away from you. They're going to use it on you. Yeah. And I think you drive a key point. Same thing with the hands. It's one thing to sit there and the dojo studio, whatever you want to say, and sit there and kind of spar with somebody. And that's cool. You may be doing it from a fitness standpoint, but are you actually going to put your knuckles in somebody else's face, in their body? Put your thumb in their eye, whatever you've been trained to do, because when you do, it's a totally separate deal. It feels different. It acts different. It's not the same. And oh, by the way, you've got somebody, and I'll let you articulate on this. When that confrontation happens, it's just, it's not like the magic one bullet, the one punch, the whatever. Sometimes you luck out. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you don't. And then you're in the fight of your life. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very true. And I think that some of the best people that I've actually had training with, believe it or not, are domestic violence survivors. And I say that because of the fact that when you get somebody, man or woman, that's a domestic violence survivor, they know what it's like to receive a shit ton of violence. And they also know when they fought back what didn't work against a hostile environment or person with bad intentions. We're not now, to whoever's listening, we're not talking about some street fight where, a guy is squaring up and you're just playing tag. I mean, we're talking about people whose sole intention is to take your life or your loved one's life from you, and you're going to have to do whatever it takes to not survive, to thrive in that violent pool of chaos. And nothing's ever going to work. Kicking to the groin. I'm a big proponent of kicking the groin. Hello, Krav Maga guys. Well, if you ask me, say, Marcus, pick one thing to do, I'm going to tell you hit him in the throat. Hit him in the throat, because every human being, drug-induced, alcoholic, or even a mentally unstable person, the minute you hit that throat and they can't breathe, well, they've got a small half second of flinch where I can either create an opportunity to leave or go to the next level of violence that I need to go to.
Yeah. And you make a great point when you were talking about how it can change a person having gone through violence. And I think it's just like when you're in a fist fight and you'll find somebody, you bring that violence to them, you'll find whether or not this person's really in it to win it or not. It changes a person. I think that's great. That what percentage do you think you have survivors of violence come into your classes?
Well, now with the online stuff, I'm having a lot more people who are finding the courage, because it's online, so it's safer for them to engage in these things, especially the ones that are living in hostile environments as it is.
Right.
They can get 30 minutes away from the enemy and learn these things. But I would say not enough. I would say not enough. There's not enough people who are in war zones on a regular basis who do not go and empower themselves enough with anything. And again, I don't care. I think you and Rick will agree with me that it doesn't matter whether it's a knife, a gun, a stick, a freaking spoon, as long as they're taught how to use that item with bad intentions, because anything in anybody's hand with bad intentions is going to be effective. Which I think it's fair to say. I put a spoon in Rick's hand, I'm pretty sure he's going to do some kind of damage with it.
Yeah. Especially if he's got a bowl of ice cream in front of him.
Attaboy. That's an attaboy.
So, Marcus, I brought something because I kind of knew you were going to bring that up. Oh,
there's my boy right there. There it is.
Yep. But on that, buddy, here's the thing. I think I saw either it was in one of your IG stories, post, whatever. You were working, and I don't know if it was with people in either the elderly or people in wheelchairs.
Yes,
you were
using, it was a handicap. Yep.
It was handicap, which I know is your passion for helping those people, to give them, one, some normalcy, and two, just a fighting chance. God forbid something should happen.
Yeah.
But you'd used a water bottle. And could you articulate on that a little bit?
Well, so it kind of ties into yours and mine when we met in Houston. I'm always, as you can see, even just in this, I'm drinking coffee. I always have something in my hand, some type of fluid, especially coffee. God forbid I have to throw it and waste it on some scumbag, but I'm willing to do it. But utilizing a common object or what have you, using some tool that is not a part of my body as a starting or finishing tool of getting, either starting the fight and finishing the fight with it, or using it to escape, but utilizing these things that people normally just kind of take for granted. A water bottle, even though it's plastic, a plastic bottle rammed into an orbital socket is still uncomfortable.
Yeah.
His water bottle that he's got, I ended up taking my Hydro Flask that I got as a gift from the coffee company that sponsors me, and I put stickers all over it. And I ended up carrying that around because, when I fly on a plane, when I fly on a plane or wherever, it's just in my hands. And that metal is far more effective against human flesh and bone than my hands will ever be.
Yeah. And it could be anything you have in your hands. It's the mindset, those keys with lanyards. Those things are badass. And, you know, I think
amount of people that don't use pens and pencils and just line. I bet you if the three of us went walking down the street right now, if we happen to be in the same place, and we just went in 3 different directions and we said we got 5 minutes to pick up the first thing possible to be violent with, we'd find it like that, because there's always something lying on the ground. I find razor blades, nails, you know, you name it. Anything can be used as a bad intention. Water bottles I'm a big fan of, only because anything liquid normally is enough of a change in environment to be able to escape for the average person.
Yeah. And I love the point about thriving. Not just surviving, because most of the time when I'm out in public, I have a family member with me. And that's just the honest truth. And that's with most folks, you know, family having age. You're always going to have someone with you that you care about. And you cannot afford to just simply survive yourself because the other person might not. And there's nothing worse than that to me anyway.
No, I agree.
To Mark's point, here's the deal. You're not out there, you know, looking to cause a fight, but if a fight comes your way, it's going to get ended. You know, you're wishing me some type of ill intent. And, you know, like you said, it's one thing to be by myself. Got it. But man, when you got your family members with you, you've got to shut that thing down, shut it down fast, and then boogie out and get them to safety. I mean, that's your priority.
Yeah.
And I think the key point is everything we're talking about is past the point of de-escalation. If you've used your voice and your words to the point where, you know what, there's something in you like, you know what, it's got to be green light, go. I have no other choice. And then you do the action. I think the hardest part with family members, and I don't think this applies to either of you, because you probably talk to your loved ones about, okay, if this goes sideways, I need you to do A, B, or C. You know, I usually have people come up with a code word. For example, if I say the word Scooby-Doo and my girlfriend's with me, then she knows she hears Scooby-Doo as a word. She knows that it's about to go down and that she should probably evac to a either safe place or a common, 7-Eleven down the street that we've already talked about. Having a plan so that when it does go sideways, you don't have that flinch factor and having to worry about that loved one's presence or space, and don't want them to get sucked into the tornado of violence that's about to happen.
Yeah.
And I think you hit a good point, you know, because a lot of people out there will go, oh, Marcus, you're paranoid and you're this, that, the other. Here's the deal. The key part is, and for the listeners, viewers out there, it's just about being prepared. Yeah. It's no different, you know, than when I carry a firearm. Am I paranoid? Nope. I'm prepared. I'm aware of my surroundings. I'm not going to try to get into violence. But if violence should happen to find me, because like you said, there's times when you try to de-escalate. There's times you try to use verbal, hey, man, I'm not looking for any trouble. You know, and a simple posture with my hands open, just like this, you know, I'm still ready to do business. Yeah. But this is enough to go, somebody with their stupid camera going, oh, look at this guy. There's a fight. Yeah. Go away, man.
Yeah.
And that's what people just need to understand is just be prepared. So you sit there and go, hey, the 7-Eleven, you know, the little code word, all these things. Yeah. That's just, God forbid something should happen. You've got a plan, because there's nothing worse than having no plan. And it's like, now what do we do?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's when you become or get the title victim on you.
So. Well, I think the hardest part that people forget about is, okay, so let's say you have the altercation. Okay, you have an altercation. For myself personally, going to the hospital, not the funnest time, but I can live with it. What gets me to the point of almost being nauseous is that during that situation, I'm tied up with them and I blank. And for some reason, the person that I love the most gets caught up, meaning that there's something that happens and they get struck by that violence, whether that's a secondary person or that actual person that was laying violence on me because of a deflection, or I was able to move that energy to something else, ends up going towards that other person. I have to live with the fact that I didn't protect the person I was supposed to be protecting, when I could have easily just sat there and prepared ahead of time and said, look, bad things happen. Just give me space. Okay. Don't worry about me. Just get some space so that I don't have to, in the back of my head being, is person B going to get sucked into this, or is there a secondary person that's going to hurt my loved one as retaliation for what I'm doing to their friend?
Right.
I mean, violence doesn't give a shit, right? Violence doesn't discriminate against man, woman, child, color, ethnicity. Violence comes to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So why not be, as you said, prepared and, take care of the small little things that you can control.
Yeah. So Marcus, just a quick question for you, bud. When you're doing, I know you're running a bunch of different training stuff like that. Just two things. Are you actually having your students get struck at all?
Yes.
Because I know one thing, just to add, Modern Army Combatives, I think they finally realized that, hey, you're doing moves, but there's no actual strike involved or being hit. Yeah. So at least, I'm not saying you're going to sit there and try to get a guy to punch drunk state, but it's one thing just to catch a little jab to the face to go, oh, okay, that was an eye opener.
Right.
And then
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. We'll do that, and then I'll circle back with my second question.
No, it's just, the bottom line is it's like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? So get punched in the face, see how you react to it, and then you get punched in the face a couple more times. It doesn't quite have the same impact as it did the first time.
Okay. And then kind of my follow-up to that is, since you were talking about kind of doing couples, do you see couples coming to your programs and incorporating some of those skills you were talking about earlier, or is it pretty much just individuals?
Unfortunately, it's not enough couples, and it's usually because I don't want to put somebody in a light, but it's usually the man saying, no, I'm good. I got my fill in the blank, knife, gun, bazooka. I'm good. We don't need anything. Or it's the female or whoever the other partner is that's saying, I'm not comfortable with violence, so I don't wish to, burying their head in the sand. And it makes me sad because if you are with your partner on a regular basis, then the chances are when violence comes knocking, that's who you're going to be with. If you're with your, let's say you have a 14-year-old, 17-year-old child, and they're at your hip whenever you're not at work, well, then you better get that 17-year-old trained up pretty quick on what's going to happen if things go sideways, because they're now a liability. And it should be an asset. You should have assets around you, not liabilities. So to answer your question, Rick, there's not enough people, and that's mostly because a lot of what I'm seeing is, no, that won't happen to me. I'm in a great environment, or that's not going to happen to me because I'm, 6'2", 250 pounds, or whatever nonsense they believe. And that's because violence hasn't kissed their life yet.
Right. And it does. It always does.
Oh, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, whether or not you can avoid it by de-escalating or being able just to have a plan and get away, that's still a violent encounter that you had to deal with. So unfortunately, that is a barrier. We have to deal with that with firearms, just as much. But I would think probably the hands-on stuff that you do would be something that you probably have to deal with those kind of things probably a little bit more, wouldn't you think?
Well, I think so. See, the problem is when we're speaking, the three of us speaking about a subject that is not a problem in our lives. Nobody's picking a fight with the three of us. And the main reason for that is because predators come by, they take a whiff. They're like, well, I'm not messing with that. I don't want to mess with any of these three guys because they're going to actually put up a fight and make my life miserable. No, I'm going to go to that weak person, weak being they can smell that that's a victim ready to go. So they're like, oh, I'm going to go over there and fight them. Well, that person over there hasn't seen, or they don't care enough. Maybe I'm using the wrong verbiage, but the bottom line is they're not doing anything to be a challenge for those bad guys.
Right.
And it's a simple fix.
But you know what, Marcus? Here's the thing. It's kind of funny because with everything going on right now, think about this. You used to watch people walking around. I don't care. Go to your big cities. Everyone's glued to their phone, right?
Yep. Oh my goodness.
You saw that, just people going in the parking lot, Predatorville 101, the parking lot of wherever. Now you're at least starting to see a little bit, not that they're necessarily aware of their surroundings, but people are at least kind of heads up going, hey, trying to keep distance from other people and maneuvering a little bit.
Because they've been told that they should keep 6 feet away.
Isn't that something?
Right.
Isn't that something? Right. How quickly that happens.
That's something positive that came out of this.
Yep.
It's something positive. We just hope it stays. But like you said, you can still, it's just, I think you hit the nail on the head. And I got it. Even though somebody may not be as skilled as they should, just the way they carry themselves.
Yeah.
just having that personal, because I think it's that personal self-confidence, and I know me and you have talked about our little buzz phrases, and it's just one of those staples that I try to convey to people. But the part being is if you want to say a little taller, your shoulders back a little more, because, hey, man, I've got good stuff on the inside. Just like you said, man, those predators will see that and go, I'm not willing to take the risk.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Because there's 1,000 other sheep or weak people to go after. It's not like they don't have an easy hunting ground. They have an easy hunting ground. So why would they possibly – I mean, look at the animal kingdom. I'm not a smart guy, okay? I watch the Discovery Channel. You think that female lioness is going for the biggest one possible? Heck no. She's like, you see a little scambler? I'll grab that one because it'll feed. That one's not going to put up a fight. Why bother? Yep. It's just not – it's not logical from a bad person's perspective. Why am I going to pick a fight with somebody who's going to put up a nightmare for me? Now, when you have somebody that's not right in their brain, then they are going up to that because there's something to prove.
Yeah.
Completely different animal.
Yeah, our local university's uptown area, we call them walking ATMs. They have their book bag, they have their AirPods in their head, and they got their hands down at their phone, and we just call it is a robbery waiting to happen. It's an assault and then a theft. And that mindset's just not there. And, you try to educate, and that's all you can do.
Listen, I'll be honest with you. I don't think that it's possible to educate a person because as a culture, we're reactive to everything. It's in our upbringing to be reactive to something. So when do you worry about car insurance? Usually, unless you've been, doing what you're supposed to, after you've had an accident.
Right.
When do you go worry about your health? After you've had a doctor tell you that you've got a health scare. We're reactive in how we do things. So when am I going to start worrying about violence? After I get attacked.
Yeah.
Only then is it on my radar. And if the attack was not severe enough and I can bury my head back in the sand, I'm going to do it because that's how I'm going to cope with my trauma. And it's garbage and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It never has and never will. And I don't want to come across as negative.
No, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. People need to hear it. Good stuff.
It's not negative, Marcus. It's just the reality, right? Yeah. And it's funny because to the viewers, listeners out there, I got to throw a bone to you, buddy. So we chatted, I think it was in Houston, when we kind of had the conversation. I think it was at the dinner table.
Right.
And I asked you the question, who was the best person in the room or sitting at the table or whatever my concept was.
Yeah.
And so for those of you that weren't listening, long story short, I just asked Marcus, who's the best person in the room or at the table or whatever. And the point that I was trying to drive across was just as far as it's not arrogance. It's just a self-confidence to go, it doesn't matter who you're with. I'm the best person wherever. Mm-hmm. And really, to Marcus's, I got to throw you a bone, buddy. I don't know how many countries you've taken it to.
Oh, my goodness. At least 10.
Wow.
But I'm sitting there watching, I know for a fact the kids in Australia.
Yep.
Saying, hey, I'm the best person in the room.
Yep.
And then we caveated with this, right? So there's nothing I can't do. I'm a realist to go, I may not be the best. But there's nothing I can't do.
Yeah.
And Marcus has taken that message globally.
Yeah.
So for that, brother, hey, I appreciate it.
Well, and so for those of you that are listening to the reason why that and I got goosebumps just talking about it, the reason why that has so much impact on myself personally and anybody else is if you've ever been challenged with self-doubt or you don't have self-care or you just think that you're a worthless SOB, when you utter those words, it gives you permission to remember that, you know what? I'm not worthless and I can achieve something. And I'm going to give you a perfect example. So I'm in Costa Rica, okay? And I'm with this IPSC shooting guy. And Rick, my feelings on how I feel about shooting. I'm not the most confident guy. So we're doing these drills and I'm like, oh man, this is going to be horrific. And I swear, as God is my witness, I said, all right, well, I might not have said I'm the best person in the room, but I did say the following. I said, there's nothing I can't do. I may not be the best, but there's nothing I can't do. Ran the drill, sucked at it, went, okay, I'm not the best there is, but you know what? There's nothing I can't do. And then all of a sudden I get better. But it was those words said exactly 3 to 4 seconds before engaging in that subject. And it immediately got rid of anxiety, immediately got rid of any kind of self-doubt I had. And I'm telling you, Rick, it'll probably be on my freaking headstone when I die, because it is such an empowering is used way too much, but it is an empowering sentence structure that is now become a part of my DNA. And it is something I will forever be thankful. If I learn nothing else from Rick Hogg, if I've just learned that for the rest of my life, I can die a happy man. Real. No, not being, silly about it. I'm being dead serious.
Well, you have a lot of good words of wisdom too, Marcus. You're selling yourself a little bit short here, because your IG page is amazing. It's one of my favorites. You're constantly letting people know, hey, man, just like Rick said, you can do anything. You got to give it a shot. You may not be the greatest, and you probably will fail at a lot of things, but you got to give yourself the self-confidence to go out there and do some good stuff. And, I know you do a lot of speaking out about people who are struggling. Rick and I talk about it.
Yeah.
You do a lot of good stuff. So I really appreciate the stuff that you put out, because you and I have had conversations that has struck my life. And I think that's a great piece of what you are about. And I'm sure a lot of other people appreciate that. And here's another thing too. For all the listeners and the viewers on YouTube, Marcus reaches out. I simply put a post that was a little vague. I said, hey, I'm back. Everything's good. I'm glad to be back. And Marcus immediately hit me up with a direct message text. Hey, man, you okay? I said, yeah, man, I was just tied up at work. But, that's the kind of guy that Marcus is. And I know Rick has experienced that too. And that's a great thing about this whole interweb stuff. You meet some really great people. And I really appreciate having met you and all the stuff that you do, Marcus. I really appreciate it.
Well, and to caveat, I always like using the word. I can't spell it, but caveat on that. If you remember when we were at SHOT, right? When we were at SHOT Show, okay? And, when you meet people online, you never really, really know what they're like. You know what I mean? Like, I've met a few people who online were one way, and in person they were a different way. So when you get to see somebody that you meet online and then they end up being salt of the earth solid, case in point, the two handsome devils I got in front of me right now, online, you're, solid. And then to meet you in person and have that, basically that permission that, yes, Marcus, you were correct. Your gut was right. This person is somebody that you wish to spend time with, learn from, be a part of. That's where I I have to remind myself why the internet is good. Yeah. Generally speaking, it's not the best, especially right now. So it's these conversations. I stalk Rick all the time with messages. It's those positive feedbacks on what could possibly be just a negative thing all the time. So, and to be honest with you, the negative, I call it the negative insurgency, and I'm sure there's 1,000 different things. At the end of the day, you got little gremlins, right? And what was it? You remember the movie Gremlins? Don't feed them after midnight. Oh, yeah. Don't get them wet. Okay, there's a lot of truth to that. And these little gremlins have power, and when you're not strong enough, you need to rely on a team. And I'm thankful that my team has a small group of really solid men and women, yourselves included. I'm bringing you in.
Thank you.
I think it's necessary because we are inundated. What is it when you're bombarded with a whole bunch of
inundated?
Stuff?
Yeah,
inundated. Right. It's got so much negativity, especially right now today.
Oh, man.
Right, I can't go on Facebook. I can't go on the internet.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Because I'm not going to have a positive experience, and it's not even about controlling. Like you can censor what you see. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So I have to rely on my friends, the people I trust, to keep me as a compass, as it were, keep me solid, because otherwise, man, the internet, my so-called safe space, is infected with negativity, plus the gremlins that are there on a regular basis. If I didn't have my team of people, it would be not bad. Yeah. I mean, it would be bad.
It'd be tough, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you hit a key point, Marcus, right? We all got garbage we deal with, life is life, right? And having those people that you can reach out to, just going, hey, man, just like with you with Mark, hey, everything all right? Or, hey, everything good? Or, we have a tendency to read people's posts or comments or things, and, you just circle quick back around. Hey, man, all good? Mm-hmm. Either it's, yeah, man, or I'm just having a crappy day, or, hey, you got a minute to talk, or whatever. Right. And I think that's important, because here's the bottom line. You know as well as I that the interwebs can be, that's the fakest of fake, man, right?
Oh,
yeah.
Golly,
it's like, just be who you are. And like I said, don't perpetrate a fraud. Be genuine across the board, and then, at the end of the day, life is easy. But
it should be. I mean, do good things, and good things should come back to you, and just be a nice human being. I mean, and I still believe in those things. I have to believe in those things. I have to believe in them because I've been a part of, and I've seen a lot, as have you both. When you see the worst in humanity, and you see the worst in other countries, that's the reason why people say, Marcus, why are you so positive? I'm not really always positive. I just appreciate the fact that I live a good life in a good country with good people.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just am thankful and grateful.
Yeah. And that's the problem, is a lot of people, they haven't been anywhere. They don't know what it's like to sit there, and have to use a hole in the ground as a toilet.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yep.
Don't know what it's like to have no running water, any type of easy conveniences. And that's when you get an appreciation to go, man, as Americans, I mean, we're spoiled.
Oh, yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay, because we're in the greatest country in the world. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But there has to be some realism to go, hey, man, don't ever forget. And it's just like, I got the flag behind me because, trust me, I have been to some absolute gems in this world. If you want to say people have a bucket list, I've got a list of going, never going back there.
Yeah,
or there, or there.
Bucket list of never go backs. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But the point being is unless you've been there or experienced that, you don't have a true appreciation. And it's like, be grateful, because you know what, power's on pretty much 24/7, short of some natural catastrophe. I can turn the faucet on. I've got the bathroom. Toilet paper, I think we're finally getting back there to having,
I think so. But, and there's always socks, so it's okay.
Yeah, But, I think you hit a key point, brother. I mean, be grateful for what we have.
Yeah.
And, that hits the nail on the head.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask you, Marcus, and I don't know if you can pull this one off or not, just, do you have something that you could either tell, show, kind of the listener, viewer, if you had like a self-defense tidbit, just a quick throw out?
Yeah, that's actually, it's really, really so simple that most people think of it as nothing. Everybody, pretty much in North America anyways, has given a high five in their lifetime, right? I mean, everybody, high five. So when they're asking, Marcus, what's the best self-defense tool you can give me? If you can't spit, spitting's the first one, because I haven't met one human being yet who doesn't have a negative reaction to spitting. After spitting, I can do anything I want. After spitting, I can run, I can engage in anything else. Take spitting out of the occasion. Palm heel strikes, we talk about palm heel strikes all the time, and the effectiveness of a palm heel strike has to be, I can't think of a better tool. I can hit any part of the human head, front, back, side, often without breaking anything, which means that I can go to tools right away after I've engaged with that hand.
That's a great point.
Right? So the only way, how do I do a palm heel strike? Well, it's easy. High fives, right? You do a high five, good. Now, have you ever done a push-up? A push-up is nothing more than a high five on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference is I'm pushing and I'm coming back. I'm pushing, I'm coming back. Difference is I'm not hitting the ground, now I'm hitting somebody's face. I'm high-fiving them in the face with a little bit of push-up push. Done. And if everybody does that, that will create, doesn't matter, man, woman, or child, create the opportunity for escape or to go secondary tools.
Right, especially if you're not a big, strong person. That's the idea anyways, to create that distance and give yourself some time. Great stuff.
And you look at a female, if you've got female listeners, maybe a palm heel strike doesn't feel good the first time around. So after you hit the first one and all of a sudden you're going fingers first, well, now you're sitting there stabbing eyeballs, throats and eyes. Two things we know for a fact that every human being gets affected by it. There's not one person alive that doesn't get affected when you hit here or hit here.
Yep.
Awesome tips, brother.
So what do you got going on in your world right now? Either personally or business wise. What do you got going on?
Personally, I'm just trying to be the best person in the room.
Yeah.
That's my ongoing every day. That's what I wake up every day trying to do, be the best person in the room. On a professional level, I'm in Arizona, and I recently just made an agreement to be a part of the instructor cadre for a place called Range Time in Phoenix. And they're a range, I don't want to say a firearms range because it's all simulators. So I'm able to do my job, do all the movements and defensive movements possible while people are. So let's say I've got Mark in front of me. I'm like, Mark, here's how you deal against stabbing, blah, blah, blah. Good. Now we're going to engage your tool from an appendix carry. Well, I can't do that in a range.
Right.
There's no range that for the most part will allow you to live fire from the concealed carry for the most part. So here it's all electronics, and I'm able to sit there and take their weapon, whatever weapon it is, slip the I'm not familiar with the electronics version of it, but the cool thing that makes it go pew pew, but it's all you don't need eyes or ears. There's different target scenarios in front of them. I can go and do all my attacks. You can do all your defenses, then pull and get immediate feedback because it's a CO2 magazine. I'm getting feedback, and I'm able to sit there and draw and do things in a safe environment while still being able to dial in my shots, make sure I don't have shitty patterns and all that fun stuff. So it's an awesome place. It's like kid in a candy store.
Wow.
What was the name of that range, Marcus?
It's called Range Time. On Instagram, it's Range Time 2020.
Range Time 2020.
I call him a kid. His name's Sean. I call him a kid because he's young, but he's a Marine.
Oh, okay.
And just really open to a lot of the stuff. I mean, we've got I know they call it they don't call it a kill house, but what is it when you walk in? They call it a kill house, I guess, right? Where you go in, you can do CQB. Right?
Yeah, like a shoot house.
That or a shoot house.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, they've got a shoot house in the back, but it's not made of wood. It's made out of where I can move the walls, so I can make it to, if I want to do Mark's bedroom and have Mark learn how to deal with a home invasion when that door gets kicked in, and we use simunition rounds, or we can use again the electronics. I mean, the opportunities are going to be vast. I'm so excited that I hope maybe my boys will come by and take in this place. I'm telling you, it's phenomenal. It's a great, and I mean, it's air conditioned, and I don't need eyes and ears and brass. I don't have to worry about ammo costs. Like, there's just so many positives to it. It's outstanding. Great supplement to firearms training.
Well, scenario-based training is always ideal. And, we'll make sure we put some, all that information, we'll get it from you, put it in the show notes so people can be directed to that. Sounds like a great place.
Oh, and again, it comes down to the ownership. The ownership is what makes me, I mean, it's a great place, but if the guy was an asshole, why would I wanted to support it, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Right? You guys are great at what you do. You guys are phenomenal at what you do. But it's not what you do that makes me want to be part of your friendship and your family. It's because of who you are as people. That's why I love you guys. The fact that you're great at what you do is like a bonus. It's like ice cream.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that.
No, I'm just speaking from the heart, man. That's just a fact. If you guys were jerks, I wouldn't be on this podcast if you were jerks.
Thanks,
man.
Marcus.
Yeah.
Hey, Marcus, on that, is there a live fire range there as well, or is it just all simulation?
It's all simulation, but we have an agreement with several live fire ranges that are relatively close by, so that we can, if Mr. Rick Hogg decides to come to Phoenix or Arizona, I've got 3 or 4 ranges that I'll set up for that.
All right, buddy. One more thing for Marcus real quick. Do you have a life lesson or a takeaway for the listener viewers out there?
A life lesson or a takeaway?
Yeah.
I think that the biggest life lesson that I can give anybody, especially anybody who's had dark days, is it's a bad moment. It's not a bad life. It's not a bad anything. It's just a bad moment. And life goes on, and it will go away. It will get better.
All right. Awesome, brother. How can people get in touch with you? if they want to either do a class or, just see what you got going on social?
Instagram is probably the best way. It's the best platform that I'm on a regular basis. I'm on Facebook as well. But
and that's just a matter of shooting you a DM on Instagram.
Yep.
Okay.
Set up times and dates.
Awesome, brother. Cool, man.
I appreciate you guys allowing me the opportunity to come here. While you're making it like it's good for me. This has been cathartic. What is it? It's been therapy for me, seeing you guys and talking to you guys.
Good.
Just for the record.
Us too, man. Thank you for being on our little show.
I love you guys. You
really
guys
appreciate it.
It is doing so good, guys. You guys you're knocking it out of the park.
Thanks, buddy.
It's fantastic, enjoyable podcast to listen to.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, Marcus. Appreciate it, brother.
All right, Marcus. Catch you next time. Everybody check him out on Instagram. Like I said, we'll have all his stuff in the show notes. Thanks again for being here, Marcus. Really appreciate it, pal.
I love you guys.
All right.
Stay
Thanks,
safe.
buddy.
Love you too, buddy.